Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been a while. In case you didn't know, my last video came out in December. I did not intend to take such a long hiatus, but some life stuff was happening that was rather distracting. I got busy wrapping up my grad school at the end of 2021, but I now have a Master of Arts in English. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. But then 2022 got off to a bit of a contentious start for me, and basically life was just all around sucky. But a couple of key things have changed since then. My mind isn't as clouded by all the suckitude, and so I'm back on booktube finally. With all this going on, toward the end of 2021 and in the beginning of this year, I found myself in something of a creative slump, both for writing and for video making, so I figured this would be a good time to talk about strategies for dealing with such periods and ways to get out of them. I also like to think that I'm a great advice giver, but a truly dreadful advice taker, especially of my own advice, so with any luck, making this video will actually convince me to take my own advice for a change. Let's start off by talking about what a creative slump is and how they typically happen. Obviously, this is largely drawn from my own experiences, so your mileage may vary, but I'm willing to bet this will resonate with creative people of all kinds. Creative slumps are simply when you don't feel like creating anything. Seems pretty obvious. This can impact basically any form of creativity: writing, music, art, woodworking, glass blowing, puppetry, etc. Whatever your creative fancy, there will inevitably come a time in life when you just don't feel like doing anything. Sometimes this will happen right at the beginning of a project. For example, if I set out with the lofty goal of writing a 200,000 word book, I might get hung up right away on the thought of getting that first word on the page, no matter how much planning I've done for it. All the excitement I built up suddenly vanishes. Or I might get to 80,000 words and then I hit a rough patch. I wonder if what I'm doing is actually working now that I'm in the thick of the middle, which tends to be the hardest part of writing a book. Or I might even get to 170,000 words and wonder if I'm going to be able to pull off the ending. In any of these cases, it's easy to withdraw from the project with the intention of thinking things over, and next thing you know, it's been 3 months since you wrote anything or made a YouTube video. And these examples are only talking about issues with the project itself. Sometimes a creative slump isn't caused by a lack of creativity, but other life stuff coming up. You might be in the thick of final projects for school or a big project for work and simply not have the energy to write. You might have family obligations that take up a lot of time, so with the little free time you get, you just want to unwind rather than doing more work, which writing and being creative is. So the creative slump might not be, I don't want to write, but rather, I don't want to commit to writing at this time. And of course, you might just be having a rough patch in life and not feel like doing anything beyond the bare necessities, and maybe not even those. Whatever the case, a big problem I run into while in a creative slump is simply acknowledging it, and it really just starts with one bad week. I didn't hit my target word count, so now I know I have to do extra the next week, but then the next week I write even less than I did the week before, and so now I'm doubly behind. That feeling of being behind kind of compounds until it becomes overwhelming, and then I kind of shut down on pressing forward with the project. For a few weeks, I'll lie to myself and say, this will be the week I get back on track. And then when I don't get back on track, I feel enormously guilty, which causes further stress. And the only way I finally start lessening some of that stress is just by admitting I need a break. Acknowledging and recognizing that I'm in a slump and that I need a break is what finally allows me to start navigating a way out of it. With that admonition, I stop looking at the time off as being wasted, but rather as a necessary breather. So, first step to getting out of a creative slump: give yourself some grace and time to recuperate. No one can be on it at all times, at least not in a healthy way. The next thing I do is make a plan. I'm all about putting things on my calendar, mostly because I'll forget stuff without a notification telling me to do it. When making the plan, it can be good not to try to jump back into things at the same speed you were going at before. If you're someone like me who likes to write a certain amount of words or scenes or pages in a day, consider cutting your normal amount in half. When I'm really in the thick of writing, I end up shooting for 1,000 to 1,500 words per day, which will take about 2 to 3 hours. But when I'm just getting back into writing, I might start off with just shooting for 500 words on the weekdays, and then maybe the full 1,000 to 2,000 words on the weekend days. It's kind of like getting back into lifting weights when you've been out of the gym for almost a year by this point. Ooh. Your muscles need time to become reacquainted with the movements, so you can't just jump back up to the weights you were hitting before. When you do that, you'll have trouble walking for a week. Your creative capacity is just another muscle, and you need time to build back up to your full capacity. Another thing that you want to avoid is diving right back into the part that was causing you issues without a plan. Whether you're a pantser or a plotter, it would behoove you to spend a little bit of time thinking through what was causing the problem that you quit on. If a scene isn't turning out the way you wanted it to, dedicate some time to figuring out why that is. Maybe the pacing or the dialogue isn't working the way you want, maybe think about some ways to redo the scene that keeps your initial vision, or maybe start on an entirely different scene. Alternatively, just continue forward with the plan that you had and just let it suck. Because remember, it's perfectly fine and normal to suck on the first draft. The important part is that you start making a little bit of progress again. You can worry about the polish later on. Something else I tend to do when in a creative slump is increase my time doing other things like reading, gaming, watching shows, movies, what have you. Of those three, I tend to think of reading as the only productive one. So to help reframe my time spent not writing, I try to assess the other media I've been consuming from a storytelling lens. If I watched a movie, read a book, played a game that was really bad, I try to think through all the plot beats and character arcs and figure out where it all went wrong, and maybe think of ways that I could have done it better. What that does then is to help reinforce the notion that I do know what I'm doing when it comes to telling a story, which provides a nice little confidence boost when I get back into writing. Similarly, if I consume a story that was really good, I try to break it down to its essential components to figure out what resonated with me and why the creative decisions were so successful. The most important thing I've learned over the years, and the biggest takeaway from this video, is that being in a slump is okay and completely normal. You're not any less of a writer simply because you need a break. And the truth is, the vast majority of writers are ordinary people with jobs or school or families, or maybe all of those things, and sometimes you just need a breather from everything. The best thing you can do for your own well-being and your long-term success as a creative is to not beat yourself up about it. Take the break, and when you're ready, you can come back to your project more revitalized than ever. So I think that's it for today. I do want to thank everyone who stayed subscribed during the hiatus or who asked how I was doing. Kind words are always appreciated. And since I've had some time off to debate what I want to do with this channel, I think moving forward, I'm going to drop down to posting one video per week rather than two for this foreseeable future, at least until I can figure out a good balance with life. I recently started a new job, and that's a great change, but I'm still navigating all of that. Also, more importantly, I started outlining the sequel to my novel, The Broken God, and if life cooperates, I'm planning to start the actual writing in May, so stay tuned for updates on that. As always, thanks for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on other writing tips and various stories. Leave a comment below if any of this resonates with you. Do you get into creative slumps, writing or otherwise? Let me know how you handle them, or feel free to just say hello. I post new videos on Sundays. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you here in the next video.